Hello and welcome everybody to Getting APIs to Work. Today we're saying hello to Allan Knabe of APIable.io. Hey Alan, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well.
You're coming to us from Helsinki or close to Helsinki. Where are you?
Yeah. I'm Helsinki, just on the east side, on a very small island there, but 15 minutes from Helsinki downtown, so quite good.
Okay, cool. What we're doing today is we're talking how to get from APIs to value and about the future of API portals. We first met in Helsinki in 2019 at the API Days, and I know back then you had a position as I think API product manager at a
Mhm.
large organization. Since then, you have started your own company. It's something that I really respect when people do that. What made you do that step? Just give us like your really brief elevator pitch on why you did that.
Oh wow, okay, yeah. I think that the primary reason is having worked in two larger companies with an API program. I was quite surprised at the amount of time it takes to get like an API program up and running. And especially so that the first one we can excuse because it was quite early when we started the API program. But the second API program, it took just as long as the first one to get going, right? And this kind of shocked me that we haven't really come that far in terms of getting API programs up and running quickly. And so that was kind of the driving passion to get that sorted out. Yeah. And this was
Okay.
just before coronavirus as well, right? So I quit my day job in February, and then I was unemployed, and everyone was just sitting at home in their jogging trousers. So not the best time.
Yeah, yeah, I think we like you have a lot of these timing stories out there now, right? Where it's like, well, I thought things would happen that way, and then they didn't.
Yeah.
But it's great to see that you're going forward with your idea. We'll have a good chat about that today. And
Mhm.
just for a little bit of level setting, so to speak, I want to just briefly introduce three concepts that we will use as names throughout this interview, which is APIs and portals, but also catalogs. Catalogs are dear to my heart because that's something that Xway is doing, and I think it's something that also plays into this picture. When we look at APIs and portals and catalogs, how would you classify those things? How do they relate?
Okay. So, I mean, for me, it's more or less like different levels of the same thing. So, at the very, very low level, you've got uh, very technical APIs, maybe microservices. However you're building those, then we kind of build up the next levels. For me, a catalog sits um, in the middle somewhere there, where we're cataloging the different assets we've got, right? So reusable assets, you're saying, okay, within the organization, we've got this and this and this, and you're categorizing them. And, I would say like light productization is going on there as well. So you're making your assets discoverable across the organization. For me, the portal is really then the exposure layer that sits on top, right? And could be used internally, but more than likely you're building an API portal for external consumption. And that's where I see it's more for that external story.
Yeah, I like that. I like that perspective. Coming back to the title of our interview, which is from APIs to value. When you look at this picture of APIs and then a catalog and then a portals, where do you think are the biggest hurdles to realizing the value of APIs, or exposing the value of APIs in organizations? What in your experience, where are the biggest frictions in that picture?
I would say that I'd say the biggest friction by far is presenting the value of the API so that someone on the business side can understand the value, right? So, especially if you're coming from the business side of the organization and you even hear the term API, you might get a little bit scared and put off immediately, right? So that I say is one of the biggest pain points we have is getting APIs and making them consumable by different roles. So, especially on the business side. And for that, we have now, API products is more or less the vehicle that we use to get that across. So to break down the complexity, put in a business case, so that someone from the business side can understand, okay, hi, I understand what you're trying to do with this API now. That's the way I see it.
Okay. When I read about what you're doing with APIable, I ran into the term portal as a service. To be
Yep.
honest, that's not a term that I had encountered before, but I liked it. Explain to us why you're using that term. I don't know whether you invented it or whether you ran across it, but just tell us a little bit about the idea of portal as a service.
Yeah, I think I invented that. I don't know, if I do a search, I'll probably find
Nice.
someone else. You can find everything on the internet, but I think it's mine. Um, yeah. So portal as a service. So the concept there is, again, it all stems back to working on API programs and seeing that this piece of the puzzle, the API portal, how complicated it is to get done. So it requires a lot of time and energy on the API program side. They have to probably get a team of developers to build out the portal in the way that the organization needs it and publish assets on it, etc. So what we've effectively done is said, okay, well, we'll take away the complexity and the time, and we'll provide this as a service for the organization. So anyone can come along, and the concept is that you can spool up a new API portal, you can put your logo on it, color scheme, etc., connect it to your underlying API management gateway catalog, wherever you want, and then allow people to consume from it. And then we're really reducing the amount of time it takes to get going to, potentially hours, right? Is the concept.
You also talk about a lot about more consumer focused, let's say, or business focused portals. And I think you do that in contrast to more developer centric portals.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that difference? Because I think that's really interesting as well.
Yeah, so it's also what I've been looking at over the last, like, say, 8 years at these developer portals. It's been like a side project of mine, even working in the companies I worked at in the past, to really look at them and say, okay, well, what makes them work? More along the lines of why don't they work? Because if we're being honest, there's a lot of developer portals out there where the last notification or news article on there was from 2016, and they're unloved and no developers are going there, no one's using them. And to really look at that and conclusions I've come to, and after speaking to many people in the industry, is that that's more or less targeting the wrong persona. What we have when we create API products, we have like a strong business case and a target customer in mind. And quite often that target customer is not the developer. Okay, so it's a product that is developer enabled. In order to use it, you must have a developer, right? This is very clear, and that developer experience is very important. I think we've got that nailed. But what I think we're missing with this stuff is the first part of the journey. So the decision maker who comes along and says, oh, I get it. I get the value that you're providing with this digital product, say, and then allowing them to consume it, and that's what we do. Is we see this as an equal relationship between developer and maybe the manager. It could be a product manager, business analyst, whomever wants to consume the API and sees the value of it. And we have that equal relationship there with the developer, and helping the developer by, we've all been there where we've requested access to an API and we have to wait 4 weeks, right, for the German word is Genehmigungsprozess, or whatever it is, the approval,
Yeah,
the approval
your
process.
German is good.
Thank you. Yes, I know that's my favorite word in German. But yeah, you have to wait, and that frustrates developers who just want to get going and have immediate access. So what we try and do is we get all of the contractual access type issues sorted out with a business owner first, and then we invite the developer who gets immediate access. They can see what APIs they can consume. They get the correct documentation for their product plan, etc.
I like that. And just to, follow up on your German, I think you could, because German has this nice ability to just string together words. So you could also call it the Zugriffsgenehmigungsprozess, which would be kind of like access approval process. And you could make that even longer if you want to. Anyway, there's
Okay,
that. And
I'm going to practice that.
I really like what you're saying, because I think, and I think I have to be careful, but to some extent, to me, it always seems a little bit there's this developer experience fetish where, a developer experience is important, of course, because if you have a terrible API, it's really hard to work with it. But in the end,
Right.
if you have the best developer focused API in the world, but it doesn't really deliver value apart from just being a great API to work with, it's kind of pointless. So
yeah,
to me, I really like this idea to say that, yeah, developer experience is important, but there's other parts of the picture that are important as well.
yeah.
And that leads to our next section, which is about managing APIs as products. So I think that's really something that you have like a very sharp focus on, also given your experience. So maybe you'll be repeating yourself a little bit, but because I think it's really important. So if you had to say what is really important when it comes to managing APIs as products, or managing products through APIs, or however you want to put it,
Okay.
what would be the important things that you would highlight?
Okay, it's really for me, leaning upon the existing product management methodologies that are out there, right? So product management is kind of ancient now, right? I mean, mankind first invented products, centuries ago, right? I guess the first wheel was a product, I don't know, but Heinz baked beans, Henry Ford motor car, these products have been around for a long time. Humans understand them, can consume them, and it's established field. So even if you have quite a technical thing like a API, understanding how to productize that is important. And the biggest thing for me is to say, what's the business case behind it? What do we want to achieve? And it could be, simply that you want to do strategic lock-in of a certain customer, right? So when they start using your API, they find the experience is so great that they don't want to move to a competitor, right? So it's kind of one case. Then the business case could be that you want to monetize this thing, right? So you want to sell subscriptions so that you can make additional revenue for your organization. So finding new business cases is another case as well. And I think that for me is one of the primary things you should be looking at with your API products. And the way you can do this as well is to take those underlying assets that you have and think about, okay, how can I combine these in a way that satisfies a use case for the customer? And that is also key, is that you're going to go out and speak to customers and find out, okay, where their pain points are, and how you can solve those pain points with a digital product. So again, this has all been written in several books. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and grab yourself, Roman Pickler's book, Strategize, for example, and get reading. Or there are some courses now for this, I think, available as well.
I think it's a good definition of what a product is. A product should be valuable, otherwise it probably won't succeed as a product. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I also find very interesting, and that I think a lot of people are looking into, is then how do you actually measure the value, right? Like if you say a product is defined by value, then how do you do that? And that leads us to a thing that actually a while ago I talked with Eric Horesny, one of our catalysts at Xway, about that KPIs for APIs. So the question, how do you measure success or measure whether your investments were good or not, and where to invest next and so forth. And I think that's something that a lot of people kind of struggle with. It's kind of clear that purely technical measures like number of requests or something probably are at the wrong level. What's your view on these key performance indicators for APIs? How would you go about measuring things when you do define them mostly through value?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, key performance indicators are very important. I would, like you said, we can measure things on the technical level, number of API calls, number of API consumers, and so on. And maybe that's relevant for the API product that you have. But again, it's going back to the product basics, fundamentals, and saying, okay, what would be more of a business metric KPI for this? So you don't get too bogged down with the technical complexity. You can say, okay, the idea of this product is that we're, by 2022, this product is generating 1 million in revenue. Right, would be more of the KPI I would be interested in tracking, and then seeing, as time goes by, are we on track for this metric? Do we need to adjust and rethink this product? But to do that more on the business side rather than the technical side. I think in the underlying API gateway, etc., you've got a lot of great analytics there. That's look really good, and I think you can track more technical stuff there. But when we're up at the, for me, at the portal level, it should be on a product basis.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's in the end, you probably also have to, sometimes it's really hard to fully automate everything. I think it's in that case, you have to think about what would be the most useful way to do it and think about how can I support that with some technical measures, but there still probably is some processes in there where I need to, like you said, right, look at the numbers and see how do my numbers that I get from how well the product is doing in the market, how does that align with my expectations? And then that's like a more qualitative, not qualitative, but there is some non-automation going on, which I think is totally fine.
Right, and you're avoiding like vanity metrics then as well. So it's very easy to get carried away with like number of signups and number of API calls this week, etc. And you say, it's doing really well. But if it's not beating your business goals, then well, it doesn't really matter, right?
I like the name of vanity metrics. It's actually, that's one of the things I talk about every time I talk about this topic. I think I have to mention it. One of my favorite laws, the many laws that are around, Goodhart's law, which says if you turn any measurement that you turn into a metric ceases to be a useful metric because it will be gamed. That's the nature of it, right? So so if people know that stuff gets measured, gets kind of not just measured, but gets valued by the certain measurements, right? They will just start gaming those things, and there's like countless examples of that.
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean, it's one of the things I love to see is in especially new organization or new API programs where there's competition between companies on who has the most APIs, right? And I came, financial industry in an Asian country, and those guys are having like a nuclear war on APIs, right? Now we've got 2,000, we've got 2,500, etc. It's crazy, right?
It is pretty crazy. I've been at a company that is a real story where they had the exact same thing. They had the number of APIs was one of their KPIs. And of course, they churned out KPIs like there's no tomorrow. I mean, APIs like there's no tomorrow. Yeah. And they had literally, they walked me through a case where they said to achieve this goal, you have to use those 17 APIs in completely bizarre ways. But they said, it would be kind of hard to create one API for it. So we just left it at those 17 and they just moved on. Let's make more of them.
So like one for first name, one for last name, and so on.
It was a truly interesting thing to see, like how this actually works out in practice. Where it's like, this is the opposite of what you want to happen. So.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about what you're building, what you're doing, and API-able portal as a service. I really like this direction that you're going in. To give us just a very high level idea of what you're doing. Very briefly, talk us through three goals and three non-goals of what you're doing with API-able.
Okay. It's put me on the spot a
That's
little bit,
that's a
but
tough one. Yes,
yeah,
I know.
yeah.
You can
Well,
cut it down. You can also after two
great.
you can tap out.
Well, challenge accepted. We'll see. We'll see. Um, so number one is, I mean, again, if I refer back to, the mission statement of the company, that's to reduce the total amount of time it takes to get, a new API program up and running, or an existing one, actually moving. So that's like the goal, right? If we're achieving that for companies, then that's basically one there. Um, the other one would be to actually create an API portal that works in the real world, right? So a company says, okay, well, we can really see this is a success and that people are, actively adopting and using it. That would be another one. And
Okay.
right, so products, right? So helping organizations understand, okay, here you go from, very technical interfaces through to API products and support them on that journey as well. I would say that's like the three main goals we have there.
Okay. Very
Um,
good. Now, non-goals. I always like
non-goals.
non-goals.
Okay, now I have to try and spin it around to a positive, right? But so number one is a non-goal is to fire and forget. So install a portal with a customer or get one up and running, and then leave and say, okay, well, you've got your portal now, it's your problem, right? So we really hope to hold hands a little bit and really go on that journey with the customer to see, okay, how are these things becoming successful? Like I said, for us, it's not enough just to produce a portal. We want to also help in making it a success, so we can see people are using it, and again, not just the vanity metrics, but the KPIs are established, and you can see, okay, that you're successful with that. Another non-goal, um, well, non-goal would be to leave someone behind, I guess. So we have adapters for several different API gateways, and Axway is one of those, of course. But we want to be, technology agnostic in that sense. So we want to bring everybody with. So it doesn't matter what API gateway you have. At the end of the day, we can integrate with that. Non-goal. Solving world peace, I guess.
Too bad. I was counting on that one.
Right. Sorry.
Okay.
The V2 maybe we can do that.
Yeah. I liked your non-goal number two, which was, not just sitting on top of one thing, but really kind of being this layer that unifies the view of potentially heterogeneous environments that you might find. And that's actually a very good lead up into my next question, which is right now, if I understood you correctly, right now, API-able sits on top of gateways, which is fine, makes sense, and so forth. Now, one of the things that we're trying to push in the market a little bit is this idea of catalogs, right? Where you have gateways and then you have a catalog that pulls in information from different gateways. So you already have this kind of unifying layer somewhere. Now, my question to you is, if you look at this picture, how would you see API-able working on top of the catalog? Would you foresee any fundamental problems, or would you say, well, of course, it would be a new adapter that you would have to build, but apart from that new adapter, things probably should work pretty well? Like, what's your, like, just, roughly, it's like, well, I think that's a good or maybe not so good idea.
I think it should be okay. I just one of the things that we would love to prototype, obviously, but what we're effectively looking at there is, like you said, a new type of adapter. that's maybe at a slightly higher level. So what I could see there is maybe some content is coming across with that. And we can use that content in theory to pre-fill some of the product fields. So, on the product side, you have product name and description and marketing text, etc. So maybe with that adapter, we would do a little bit more actually than we would with the pure on the API gateway level. But ultimately, as long as the catalog has good APIs that we can sort of consume and pull out, I don't see any barriers there. On contrary, I see positives in that we can reuse that work that's been done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea actually that maybe, looking at what does the catalog have in terms of maybe additional metadata that you wouldn't find it in a typical gateway, and
Yep.
how can we leverage that metadata in the portal. I think we've covered good ground so far. We looked at how these things come together, gateways, potentially catalogs, a portal. We looked at how a focus on value probably makes a lot of sense at the portal level. So all of this, I think, is really interesting for people who are looking into how to formulate their API strategy, how to manage API programs, how to build API platforms. And I think with that, we can wrap it up. I would like to thank you for being available for this interview. It was a lot of fun. Any closing words from you, Allan?
Likewise, a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. So looking forward to the next one.
Okay, same here. Thanks a lot again for being on the channel, and thanks everybody for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, maybe leave a comment. And if people are really interested, we even might make another one talking more about the details on how API works and how maybe it's something that you can explore. So thanks a lot, and bye everybody.
Bye-bye.